I went to my French graduation before doing my matriculation. I was like maybe 3 days away from becoming a trapper, you know. I was in Kumasi one time and we didn't have really great network. We had this antenna outside the house and I put some stuff together to make a really simple phone. I just tried to see if I could connect the antenna to the contraption I had made and it worked. What I derived from the story was like you could find problems that look seemingly daunting and then find ways that we could solve such problems for really, really cheap. We really started feeling the effect of having a very sick parent because you're just losing money really, really fast. Her treatment was like very expensive. Because I met him, I became very polished as an engineer, right? 2024 that we just decided, let's actually be a proper company and have a strategy and all of these things in place. If you don't make a lot of mistakes in school, like you're not given ample opportunity to make mistakes in school, you're going to make mistakes on the job and it's costly. People take this very sacrificial approach to things and it's fine if you can make the sacrifices, but oftentimes compromise will just lead to resentment down the line. A little later, my IG just keeps blowing up because Kobiche posted a video of us and then wrote a really nice piece on it. So you start getting people being interested in something that you really didn't think of building a business on. But the reason why we're doing that was for them to listen to us in the first place. And now that they listen to you, they realize, there's actually a market for this in the future. I mean, hopefully everything we're doing works out really, really well.
Okay, so friends in Accra, friends in the world beyond, it's us again on the Peswa Podcast. Today I'm saying friends because over the period we realized that we have more or less developed for ourselves a really endearing community of people who are actually concerned with what we are doing here, giving us great feedback and giving us all the thumbs up. And we want to say thank you for what you're doing and keep doing it. And for those of us who are watching and have not subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, share, and if possible, leave a comment. So, in our quest to bring you the stories of people who are doing avant-garde things, people who are making the world go round. Today's episode is a very unique one, actually. It's with Barnabas Nomo. Barnabas is the CEO for Goliath Robotics. What they essentially do is that they design, develop product solutions, tech solutions for people to improve the quality of life of people in the mobility space. So they have two flagship products I'm aware of, electric wheelchairs, electric bikes. And more or less, we have our own Elon Musk on our hands, and it promises to be an exciting conversation. So, Mr. Barnabas, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So anyway, Goliath Robotics, right? What do you guys do? What are you about?
I guess, as you introduced, the goal of the company is, maybe I can start with where the name comes from, but it's essentially from, a very popular story in the Bible. I think everyone in this room knows it. David and Goliath. Okay. And I guess if you look at the story, David looks like the underdog because he was a young guy who was just a shepherd. But for me, from my perspective as an engineer, I feel like David was going to win the fight regardless because he showed up with a more advanced technology. Okay. And if having a sling in medieval times, you could hurl a stone.
It's even pre-medieval.
Yeah, pre-medieval, right? Yeah, like very ancient. Yeah. It was very, you could hurl a stone much farther than even the strongest guy could hurl a javelin, right? And with so much force that, people use slings to break the sound barrier, for example. Yeah. And so in a way, David showed up to a knife fight with a gun, right? And that's why he won. But if you look at the technology he used to, it was super, super cheap. He just went to the riverside and picked some smooth stones and put in his sling. And so, of course, he had some really good technical ability to be able to hit a target. Yeah. But ultimately, the goal, or what I derived from the story, was like, you could find problems that look seemingly daunting and then find ways that we could solve such problems for really, really cheap, And so I guess the question becomes, why not name it David, right? But I just feel like because we were cheap, it's the problems we are looking for.
Pursuing.
That's why, like just to remind yourself that you're looking for problems that look really, really big. Okay. And so like you take mobility, for example, it's not just about building people wheelchairs, right? Like there's also like a psychological toll. There is also different aspects on dependency, like people depending on families and all of that. And so you building a wheelchair is just one solution to a specific phase of the problem. There's also a lot of other things that
Pieces of the problem
you need to do to be able to deal with that. And so
you guys do everything here?
Yes, largely. I mean, we don't make the batteries here. Like there are certain parts we import, but like every other thing, we do
like
here.
the processor, the motherboard, and all of that.
So we design the motherboards here.
Okay.
We just have them made externally, you know. So because Ghana doesn't have any PCB fabrication sites yet, so
that's interesting. And so outside the wheelchair, I know you guys have like the electric bikes as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're going to touch on all of that. So run it up a little for us. Like a simple Google search of Barnabas Nomo, there's this profile of yours on Echoing Green for as a fellow from Echoing Green. Is it Echoing Green?
Yeah, Echoing Green.
Yeah, that states that you broke into the Ghanaian tech scene at the age of 16. Yeah, what happened? What caused? What does it mean? Hello, friends. A quick pause before we continue the conversation. If you're enjoying this conversation, kindly hit the subscribe button. Also, do well to share this episode with a friend, and if possible, leave a comment in the comment section. This goes a long way to help the team and motivates us to bring you great content every week. Now to the conversation.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's really my origin story.
You thank God it's not a villain origin story.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because that year I was maybe the first time we met, I didn't really tell you too much about that time of my life, but I was like maybe 3 days away from becoming a trapper. Yeah, when that happened, like true story.
Propaganda.
Yeah, because my friends, people I grew up with know that, but like my mom was really ill at the time, and I guess at that time we really started feeling the effect of having a very sick parent, because you are just losing money really, really fast. Her treatment was like very expensive. So so it was one of those things where like you're there and you feel like I created an email address for that guy, but now he drives a Chevy Camaro Bumblebee edition, right? You get me? So something like that. And when I was in high school, I went to Koforidua Sectech. Mary Mama, shout outs to you guys. But I mean, it wasn't really, I guess, not super eventful or like as respected as a school like Presec or all these other schools. But then there was a guy called Chelsea Roback, who is actually an Echoing Green fellow.
Okay, as well.
So this is really like interesting the way things even played out over time. But Chelsea was an Echoing Green fellow, 2013. So we met back then, like he was doing his camps, like where he teach people to do like robotics and programming, but more from a very fundamentalist level. So a lot of people, if you look at the projects they do in their first year, it might not seem so impressive to you if you look at other camps where people are doing like line following robots and all. But then the main benefit is that the student benefits a lot though, because you learn about so much of the fundamentals, like how digital signals work, how to communicate with microprocessors that people don't learn in other camps. They'll do one cool project, but then that's all they can do. So like their model was to equip you with so much fundamental knowledge that you just go ahead and do whatever you want in the world with it. So I guess after the first year of the camp, he left a bunch of circuits and stuff with me. So I would do a bunch of projects and I'll just send him pictures or I'll send him videos. It was really my brother who would record me doing those things and you send them to him. And I guess when he was just excited to see that somebody was, making use of, so he just sent me. And over time, the kind of, I guess the difficulty of the projects that I started getting based on the kind of sensors you'd send me was just increasing. And, if you're doing that, maybe if I was in a different environment, it might not have been super impressive, or it might have been, I wouldn't know, right? But like just looking at what people your age around you were doing, it looked super impressive. And I also
so I'm sure like the traction came up, like the videos your brother was making of you on social media.
Exactly. And then I had so then there's this university professor called Julian Bennett. I don't know if you heard about, the space program. Like, there's a group of people who put a satellite into space, Ghana's first satellite.
Oh, okay.
So he was running the lab that was doing that in All Nations University. So I was in the lab with him, actually. And Julian is like, I think because I met him, I became very polished as an engineer, right? Because,
Was all of this before you got to the university? Or?
Yeah, that was all before uni. So I met like Julian, and Julian and I were like, he's someone who was really good at looking at what knowledge you have and seeing what you can do with the knowledge. So we started doing a bunch of stuff. Like, I hacked his phone to get his, like, I guess one time we're hanging out, I was like, okay, let me see if I can get some, not necessarily hack his phone. It was a motherboard that allows you to so I don't know how to do any of those things.
To be modest.
But like,
EFCC come for him.
Nah, but I just had this thing connected to his phone where I could read all the sensor data. So we were doing this thing where I would connect.
Did you build that board yourself?
Nah, it was someone's board. I just put it on. I put it on a robot. So basically, based on the orientation of how I moved his phone, there was a robot that would like dance along, And so, I think after he saw that, we just started doing a lot of cool stuff. Like, he'd always come in and be like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And so some of the projects that we did during that time, outside of this, like the robot I mentioned, we would make he made this robot that I connected to my Twitter account. So I'll send a tweet and the robot will just like be moving around, like I'll do specific commands and the robot would execute. That was really, really cool. I think after I did it, it took like maybe a month for me to agree to doing a video. It's because I was like, I don't. And my brother was like, nah, you're going to do this video tonight. So in the video, I wasn't like, my bare feet were showing and stuff, but it wasn't really about that.
So that's why like broke you, like gave some sort of recognition.
Exactly. And then like I was in Kumasi one time and we didn't have really great network. So we had this antenna outside the house and I like put some stuff together to make a really simple phone. And so, the video is actually on YouTube. Yeah. So I made a call. I called Julian like that day when I made it. I was like, hey, because he couldn't hear from me. He couldn't reach me. And like, there was a really big antenna outside. So I just tried to see if I could connect the antenna to the contraption I had made. And it worked. I can show you the video after the podcast. But I called Julian. So like, those were all videos that I'll send Julian, I'll send Chelsea, and so they were just kind of sharing, and
sharp, interesting. A madman. That's what that's what they say for most inventors, like Thomas Edison and even Elon. People call them madmen. Henry Ford. They say something has to twitch in your mind for you to be doing these things. Hello, community. Sorry to interrupt this conversation. So just to give you a certain subtle announcement, we already mentioned that we're working with BY on a couple of interesting things for you as a community. One of them, as it stands now, is a live event. We're going to share details soon, but then, just to keep you excited. Like we said, BY is a B2B payment platform that allows merchants to make cross-border payments. And so, exciting things coming to BY. Now to the conversation.
I guess so.
But then, but your mom, is she okay now?
Oh yeah, my mom is okay. I think she got really recovered in 2016. So
that's good to hear. Your dad, how is he doing?
Oh, my dad is like, for him, he's a really, I don't think he's, that like you never see him as I'm very sick, there's been times when he's been very ill before, but you wouldn't really notice that, it's like, well, someone has to pay their bills or someone has to do something, so he's just
like, I gather you were raised in the Eastern region, like you spent a chunk of your time. Can you walk us through that? How was growing up like? Which part of the Eastern region?
Koforidia. Okay. So we grew up in a place outside of, I guess it was close to the Zongos in Koforidia. It's called Crew Town. There's like, if you go to the regional hospital, central hospital, if you use the back gate, you reach a mortuary, and after you get out of the morgue, there's this street and everywhere else down there. So it was more like a very Islamic environment. A lot of my friends I grew up with are actually Muslims. I think a lot of people in my core group that I grew up with who are doing really, really well right now. You know, some of them like own car dealerships in East Legon and all. Some of them trap life and all. But like, I mean, that's still my friends and very supportive as well. So that's where I grew up. And I think for me, I mean, things were really interesting. I guess I realized how super privileged we were because, I mean, like, for example, I went to a private school, Madonna School in the Eastern region, like in Koforidua. It's like, I guess that's where all the bougie kids went. And
so dad teacher or something?
Yeah, my dad taught at Madonna School for a very long time. So he was, I think, over 30 years. I don't even really know what his record is. But he was really trying to be very active in our lives because just based on what you see people do in the neighborhood and how, you know, I wouldn't go too much into details, but I guess it was an okay place. But if you were raising a kid there and you didn't pay very close attention to them, a lot of things could just, you know, go wrongly, and you'd grow up and realize like a lot of the things the kids in the neighborhood would tease you about were really funny, you know, like having parents who are married or your dad bringing you home from school or that thing. It's really, really funny. But to show you why people make fun of that, like that should just create a picture of how
the place was.
The place was. And so, I mean, my dad really made it a point to make sure that we were always expressive about anything that was happening. Like if you were unhappy with something he did, you should be able to talk to him about it. If you were,
so like it was a friendship.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're a kid, your dad is like a terrorist. Like, I mean, I could still have conversations with him.
Yeah.
But I remember a lot of my conversations as a kid with my dad. My knees would be shaking, but we could have conversations, and he would not necessarily treat you like a kid. You know, like he would be watching the news together. He just ask you, "What do you think about this?" And in your mind, you're waiting for the news to end so you watch Aladdin, right? So you're not even paying attention. You know, like he'd travel, he'd bring you a bunch of books to read, you know, so you always had books to be reading and all of that, just cultivating you in such a way that, like, I guess in his mind, he probably had an idea of what a son he would be proud of, should be able to do, but not in terms of career path or anything. It was just in terms of being able to be, like, grow up with certain principles, and certain skills, and like knowing that you'd be okay. And so, I mean, being very expressive, but also knowing the right time to be expressive and when to maybe be quiet and be stoic. You know, he also like did a lot of counseling for people. So I guess a lot of the time that we were growing up, he was probably psychoanalyzing us, or you wouldn't really realize that. But he had a very profound a very profound impact on my life, especially my early life. A lot of things I do, the way I do certain things, the way I approach certain things, I picked a lot of them up from my dad. My brother also, I mean, a person I respect a lot. You know, I think I modeled a lot of aspects of my life after him shamelessly. You know, he's even the reason why I went down into programming, but that was totally out of jealousy. We'll get to that point. But like
He's the only sibling you have?
Yeah, he's the only sibling I have.
Okay.
He, like, a lot of things I got from him, even his sense of clothing. You know, like I wear a lot of Ralph Lauren shirts. It's just because when I was a kid, like everywhere you see us, you know, my brother would be in a really nice polo. And so in my eye, I guess he's the only person I've really always wanted to be like. And it's funny because it's not even like in technology, but I don't look at it just in terms of technology. It's just based on certain principles, even his relationships with people and how he's very conscious about curating certain things.
But when we were talking, you mentioned that your dad used to make sure he buy you things for you to spoil and figure out how they work. How was that like?
So I mean, he wouldn't. So this is how it starts, right? You have a kid and you've exposed them to a lot of documentaries on how things work. So I guess in the absence of anything to play with, well, the default thing I'll do is I'd see my mom's blender and I'll try to open it, and now I can't put it back together. right?
Yeah.
Or then I'll see the telephone and I open something and I remove something and I don't know how it fits anymore, or I broke it while I was trying to remove it. So it gets very frustrating. And I guess for my dad, he liked the idea that, at least I spend my free time just playing with these things. And also, I mean, I started hoarding things. Maybe I'd see something outside or a broken equipment, I'll bring it to the house and just look at it or look at the mechanics and all. So we just had to reach an agreement, and the agreement was like, now when he goes out and he sees broken equipment or his friends have broken equipment, he'll bring it home and I can use it. I can try and look at it for 3 days, but after that I have to throw it. Like, they have to throw it away. And if I bring other stuff home as well, as soon as my mom complains about it, it has to go, right? And so I guess the agreement with my mom was that, when he brings it home after 3 days, complain, right? And I mean, in Ghana, you decide the rest of your life when you are 12, and so you don't really get those other options. But there were a lot of things from his science textbooks that I would look at and all. And so I think elementary school, most of school was very easy for me because I was getting this kind of informal education at home as well. But that was really a really nice exposure to engineering. I think a lot of things, even that I do now, sometimes, I mean, people in my team will tell you, I know just the right mechanism to use or something. But sometimes it's really something I experienced as a kid, or just taking an organ apart, I mean, by organ, I mean piano, right? But like taking some of those things apart, or like breaking a computer and seeing something inside, or the way a certain screw was fastened. I think I carried those thoughts and ideas into adulthood. I mean, I may not remember things exactly as they were, but it's always like an easy trigger to go look for the right thing to do and all that. So
with all this like engineering exposure and background and building these things at a young age and all of that, did you know that you would become a business leader at this point?
No, even up to 4 years ago, or maybe up to last year, I didn't think I would have to be a business leader. And it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life till now, right? Like going from technical expert to business leader, because now you're entering a domain where you have no experience or knowledge to draw on from. And so like I always tell people, if you ask me how I think the company would go, the grand vision, and there's my phone lock screen, I don't know if you want to see it, but it's this guy, working on this rocket engine. This is who I thought I'd be like, still doing some engineering, and somehow the company just magically runs itself, right? But then you realize that to keep the company alive, you have to do other things.
When did you start the company? When did it start?
So we registered in 2023, but we actually started seriously in 2024. I think there were a lot of things we had to figure out. So when I say started officially, I mean people were kind of just working from their free time or volunteering. And it was 2024 that we just decided, you know what, let's actually be a proper company and have a strategy and all of these things in place. And so I guess like even having a product roadmap and development, hiring a project manager, so doing a lot of the other organizational stuff to make sure that the engineering can run and, reinforce the product. That started in 2024. So we haven't really hit year one, like a full year of operations. Yeah, I think this is probably the 9th month of getting things underway.
See, hopefully we are going to talk about like how the future looks like for Goliath Robotics. But I gather that the company started when you're in academic city, and your co-founders are people you met in the university, and you work with, and you're doing like projects, touching on things, and this has become a company, right? And to think that you also didn't want to go to the university, right? And now out of that experience, you built this company has been like best, more or less. Now I want to ask you, Why didn't you want to go to the university? You went to go for that technical school,
Yeah.
and then now after that, you don't want to go to the university. Why?
So I mean, I guess it's more on, and this might sound like self-praise or something, but my dad can attest to whatever I say here, you know. And I mean, he and I had quite a disagreement for a while, because I think for him, he didn't understand why I even wanted to go down this path. You know, sometimes for parents, you're really doing certain things, but they just assume like, oh, there's something, a hobby that will keep you like engaged, so that now when you're ready, you can
You
go
know
to.
he was feeding the monster.
Yeah, right. You can go to medical school. You can do something serious, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, his whole thing was that there was no industry here that could help me, or if he really needed to get me a job, of all the friends he knew, there wasn't a single one he could call and be like, hey, my son needs a job for the meantime, can you help him or something? And so I guess those were his sentiments. But then
That's like very telling of like the landscape we have in Ghana for young people.
Yeah.
Not like having the structures in place to support hands-on technical people. you know.
Definitely. But I mean, he had a little bit of understanding. His whole thing was that if you're going to do something, you need to be really good at it, right? Like if you're going to follow a passion, don't just follow it because it's a passion. How much of it have you honed? How good are you really? And so while I was home, some people in uni would bring their projects, like, because they would hear, oh, this kid can help you with your project. And so like you're just about to leave high school, and now you're doing like helping
University,
uni,
final year projects.
final year projects for university students. And it was really I guess for me, because of Elite and Chelsea and how much exposure I had, I was very like, I would say appalled, right? Like I was like, what are people learning in uni? You know, because this guy
It seems some substandard for you.
seemed like that, right? Like
Yeah.
it was more like, oh, okay, this guy is an engineering student, and I'm helping them build this, and I'm probably building the software stack for this as well, you know. And I'm doing, like, it just was really, really surprising, because also up until then, all the friends, the really close friends I had, were all in Elite, were all exposed to stuff like that, you know. Foster could just spin up a server and do some really crazy like algorithms, right? He would be doing competitive programming during the summer, you know. Kobina was just doing crazy things, you know, Stanley. So those are like the people that I was used to hanging around. And so I think out of the lens of Elite and the environment,
Yeah.
everything felt very different, right? And so that's why I didn't want to go to uni.
So how long did it take you from after high school?
4 years actually.
Oh, wow.
So the year I enrolled in uni, so I went to my French graduation before doing my matriculation, right? Like people I graduated high school with, because and I actually didn't plan to go to uni. There was just a bunch of things that happened within a period of time that made me realize.
Don't talk about that.
Maybe high level, but I don't want to
Go into details.
go into details, just because then
What flipped the button?
I mean, so I worked with a bunch of companies, right? So I worked with,
That was before university.
yeah, that was before university. I worked with Sesi Technologies. I don't know if you know Isaac Sesi.
I know him.
Yeah, so I worked with him. I worked with Complete Farmer. So Desmond Coney. Yeah, and he's really been like very active in my journey as a business leader now, especially when I told him about this. He was the one who really started telling me, let's figure out how you can transition from being this guy who has all this expertise to being this guy leading all these other people with expertise. So like, you know, you build those bonds.
Yeah.
But then there were other things that we did before, you know, even me working with those companies. And I guess, I mean, some guys had a startup that I thought I was a part of, you know, and you do an insane amount of work only to realize you weren't really part of anything in the first place. And at that time, you know, when you're operating with your friends, it's all about vibes and working, and you're very trusting of people. And so I guess that thing happened, and I wasn't very happy, you know. And at that time too, Julian was working on, I mean, the guy I mentioned, Julian Bennett, he left the satellite project in All Nations University. And so I guess that was the only school at that time that I felt like going to, because I wanted to work with Julian. Right? That was the only thing. And he was actually trying to get me into, like, to convince me to want to apply or to want to come there and I mean, they had an offer for me and everything. But because Julian left, I also didn't go. And so I met. There were actually, I had a bunch of options in schools actually, but then ultimately I
settled on Academic City.
Yeah, I settled with Academic City. So I met a woman named Sunita Janarius. At that time, I was almost committing to another school. I mean, I don't know if when I talk about it, you know, the next question always becomes, do you think you made the right decision? And I think everything has its pros and cons. I think.
You were just going to America or something?
No, I was right here in Ghana.
Sounds like Ashesi.
Yeah, I was going to commit to Ashesi. But then I guess I met Sunita and we were talking.
But I really don't see any other school that you're going to say that you're committing to and then you didn't commit to it anymore, and then people are saying whether you made the right choice.
Ashesi, honestly. Yeah. I mean, Ashesi is a great school.
It's a great school.
Legacy for over 20 years. And I mean, their systems are really, really great. So, I mean, that's why I say you wouldn't know. You get me? Like, I guess there are a lot of times when I do ask myself if I made the right decision, but it's not like from a place of regret. It's just from a place of curiosity. What would have happened if I did this? Yeah. But so I met Sunita and we were talking, and I guess for her, she was director of strategy at Academic City at the time. And so we were talking, and she was just showing me, we were talking about life generally, who I was and all. And it wasn't even about me joining Academic City. And because I think at that time, she was just trying to figure out how do I help Barnabas refine his, projects and everything he had done. Because I had a big portfolio, and she would call me, she'd pick me up. Like I used to stay at Osu, so she'd pick me up and we'll go to like Vida Cafe or something, bring out a laptop. And she was just helping me get like my resume together, get my stuff together, how to even coordinate handling projects and things like that. So I really felt a lot of growth in that period, because I think whereas I was really good technically, there were so many things I wasn't like really good at, even just being organized and how I coach things, just like everything operating on vibes, right? And I think she's the first person I met who was more like, you can't be doing everything with vibes, you need to be more intentional about all these things you're doing, because it's really impressive, but you don't even know how to talk about yourself. You don't even know how to let people realize why they need to take a vision or an idea as seriously as you do, how to leverage and influence people to form a team with them, how to get people's expertise, like things like that. And so it was more like a life mentor, right? And so that was really the main reason why I committed to Academic City.
Okay.
And also, I mean, I just realized, she was really frank with me that, I could really help shape the culture in terms of innovation and the things that people could do there, because, I mean, they already had a superstar president, Dr. Fred McBagon-Lurie. And I think for me, I was someone who people would relate with more. And so just having a really top engineer and someone who is also kind of trying to become like that and have that combo there, So that was really the main reason I felt like I could really contribute a lot to this place. The culture was in there and all.
But how was it when you got there?
How was it when I got there? I mean, it was... So, first impression when I got there, I'm not even going to lie. I was like, this might have been a bad idea, right? Because, and the reason was that, like, the campus wasn't ready. The workshop wasn't ready, for example. And so, but then, like, you'd go... So I guess the reason why I felt that way, even the hostels weren't ready. So we stayed at another hostel for a while before the school hostels opened and we moved in. But then everyone who signed up like that first year or that first batch of students at Academic City, the engineer, like, I think everybody knew that we were all taking this journey with the school together. Like, things will not be all right, but we were all going to live with them. And we're really going to find ways to set things up. So a lot of things you see at Academic City are actually student-driven.
Oh, great.
And the reason why it was student-driven was that at that time, because the school was more like, the school is a startup. It's more like, okay, people will identify, well, administration will probably prioritize this a lot more And even if they have the goodwill to do this for us, they may not be able to do it. So can we start it?
Do it ourselves.
And it's easier for them to just say, take these resources and run with them and meet us once a week and give us progress, or meet us once a month. And so that's how those things started. It was more like everybody building a department, right?
Okay.
And I think it's a very unique opportunity that very few Ghanaians would ever have the privilege of ever being a part of, And so looking at even the things Academic City has done in the last, 7 years or something, it's really impressive, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't get any school that just becomes a household name for engineering in a very short while, right? But just because people were, and Fred had this way of just talking to you and charging you up, like, okay, yeah, I can do all things,
Yeah.
But then, so you are in a very fast-paced environment and things are just being thrown at you like that. And make no mistake, it wasn't like we were just helping build a school, because you had class. I mean, our teachers that year, top notch, like Julian, who I mentioned, was running that program.
So Julian left All Nations to Academic City.
Yeah, so when Academic City started, Julian joined Academic City, right? He's the guy teaching you physical sciences. So like first class in Academic City was Julian's class if you were doing engineering. And there was this project that he was like, well, let's assume you had all lost access to tools, right? Conventional tools like a ruler. So none of you have a ruler now. And the only ruler you have is like a 30 centimeter ruler in your hand. But you need to measure this building. And you can't and there were constraints. You can't put the ruler head to, like you can't keep putting it on every part and then just like trying to read this and then turn and read. So you had to find innovative ways to just calculate like the dimensions of the engineering workshop, right? And so you look at things like, okay, at 12 o'clock, this is the direction of the sun. This is where, like you go look at things like geography to learn a few things about positioning and all. And then you measure the shadow, and then you can use the shadow based on angles to calculate the size of the building. There were people who would also put the ruler beside on just someone put the ruler on. Like that's what my group did anyways. Ian put the ruler on the workshop. We took a picture and then you ran it through a computer, and just based on the number of pixels and the actual length of the ruler, being forced to just figure out what you were going to do, and then you make a presentation. In an exam in that class, he brought a police report from a crash that happened between like a FedEx vehicle and a family van, and these were the initial velocities of all the vehicles. These were the passengers. Assume that this is what each kid weighs, this is what the mother weighs, this is how much this truck weighs,
like inelastic collisions.
Momentum. Yeah. And then it's like, who caused the accident? And you're there for 8 hours, bro. And you're writing everything. You can't even, do you get me? Like,
that's exciting.
You have an exam where you don't even have the need to copy, right? For two reasons. The guy you're going to ask doesn't even know what he's doing. But like, it's really exciting to you, even though it's really difficult. And you're realizing that I'm not being judged for a final answer. I'm really being judged for my engineering process. And I think that is something that's very missing here, where, especially if you're doing a course like engineering and you're in school, if you don't make a lot of mistakes in school, like you're not given ample opportunity to make mistakes in school, you're going to make mistakes on the job, right? And it's costly, you kill people or something. And so I think I can speak for my batch anyways, because I graduated, so I wouldn't be able to.
And that's like a great refining process for somebody with your skill sets.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because I think I always tell my friends that the main privilege I have in life is that I've been able to get away with making so many mistakes in the past when it didn't matter, than when it mattered most. I wasn't making mistakes, and so you have people. So that was really what the culture was like.
At what point do you now say, okay, well, because now a ton of the work you're doing with the Goliath Robotics is focused on mobility space, and then your flagship product is like the wheelchair, right? Yeah. That fits like the African context, though, and I know that started from your final year project.
Yeah.
With your co-founder, right? So can you take us through that journey? How did that start? Why did you start to focus on that problem, and then you can take it from there?
Yeah. All right. So I guess over the years, I picked up some really dangerous, or not dangerous, interesting hobbies, like biking downhill, things like that. So I had an injury, and I mean, just for a short period of time, like 2 weeks, it was very difficult for me to walk anywhere. So I was always just in the hostel.
Stubborn boy.
Oh no, I wasn't going to class or anything, and and the other reason is that, I mean, I did mention at the time too, Academic City was more like they were now building, like there were so many things that hadn't been done yet,
Yeah.
and so like even ramps and stuff. So I was just always in my room, maybe I would waddle to the shower and then waddle back to my room. But that was all. I couldn't use a wheelchair or anything, because I mean, it wasn't a place where you could, and not just the school, a lot of places in Ghana, if you're a wheelchair user, I don't think you can actually even go there. I mean, they may have ramps, but even things like how steep is the ramp, and how to even get to that place where you can use the ramp in the first place, So I would like, maybe you have big hills on your compound, and how does somebody go up such a big hill? So so there's, I guess, in terms of general city design, that's not really great. And so I sat with, I guess, my co-founder, with Angela. She'd come see me, and a lot of the time we'd have conversations. And I guess I also learned about her grandmother. She used to live with her grandmother when she was younger. And when she was 12, her grandmother had a stroke, and she had to kind of depend on a lot of family members to take care of her. And I mean, if you're an old person and very late in your life, and this happens, I mean, this is what she was telling me really from her grandmother. It's more like she might feel like, oh, I'm burdening my kids, I'm burdening my grandkids, like that's not a nice way to go out. And I mean, she eventually passed. So we were really just having these conversations, and I guess really jokingly thinking about how we have so much abundant technology, but people with like disability cannot, do simple things like access a doorway, right? And so imagine if somebody was super rich, he could probably easily go to space. But if he was in Agbogba right now and he needed to cross the road, and he was in a wheelchair, your money doesn't mean anything, For our final year project with Academic City, you have to write a term paper, like an academic paper about your work, really more like a properly done research. And you were supposed to do it alone, so you're not allowed to like cross-reference or base your work on anybody's work, or it can be a group project. And so I guess we started it as 3 co-founders anyways. Jeremiah had to pick another project to do, more on power systems, and Angela and I explored making wheelchairs cheap, like electric wheelchairs cheap, from designing the electronics. And she chose making electric wheelchairs cheap from the structure, right? Like making the body, right? And so we figured out, okay, I guess that was the only way we could work without having to depend on each other's work, because she could focus solely on just the mechanical aspect, and I could just focus on the controls, and we didn't need to share any other thing, because for me, you could draw a free body diagram and have those like just a wireframe, and it could still demonstrate the controls. So that's what we both worked on. And I guess the reason why we chose that is because electric wheelchairs are, I guess, cheap to sell because they're expensive to sell because they're expensive to make, right? So that's figuring out.
Tie to the mandates you mentioned earlier about the company. Finding big problems like Goliath and using high technology, which is cheap. Like David's sling. Getting fine stones. So now I have a problem with, you've realized the problem with like mobility for the disabled people, but then there's this high technology with electric wheelchairs you think can work out, but you're trying to make it cheap to tackle the problem.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. So that's really very perfectly summarized. So so that's really what happened.
So now you did this for a final year project. And you guys are about to leave school. What nudge you that, well, Charlie, we have something here. We can scale this solution. And which year was this, by the way?
This was 2022.
Okay, so now, what point did you decide that, well, we have a product here, this thing can work out, can give us, okay, we can make a business out of this. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I guess there are a couple of things anyways. After school, I did have quite some really good offers. Maybe one day I'll talk about it when things work, right? Because if I say it now, everyone will say
going back.
I'm a fool, right? Yeah, because it was really, really nice offers. And I decided to want to do this. And it ties on to, for example, the conversation I had with my brother. He telling me like, yo,
take the risk now.
Outside of that, I also realized this was probably going to be the last time I ever had a chance of working with Angela or Jeremiah, you know. And in school, I mean, every time we were in a group together, like, she could just tell by the quality of work that was done that, like, you know, I mean, we've had people try to compete before, but just like the overwhelming amount of work that was done, because Angela prior to that was designing like stabilizers for Parkinson's, you know.
Wow.
Like there was a luxury eye brand that she used to design their frames and all that. Like, so she's also probably like me in some ways, but more on like mechanical stuff, you know. And yeah, she's like super driven and all. Jeremiah, in terms of product, like just having an eye for quality and all. I guess he wasn't as super involved in the company as, I mean, maybe I would have expected, but you know, people's lives also, they have other things in life that they may need to attend to at certain points in time. So Jeremiah took a job at Talo. Angela was working part-time and I was just doing this full-time, right? And I guess the goal was that let's try and figure out, at least, can we be at a point where a year from now we can say, based on these metrics, we can become a company, you know. And so that was the first thing that we looked at.
Yeah.
And so I guess that box was checked, you know. And becoming a company meant being honest with yourself to figure out, well, how much do I really need to be comfortable so that I can work on this full time, you know. And a lot of the time, I think people take this very sacrificial approach to things. And it's fine if you can make the sacrifices, but oftentimes compromise will just lead to resentment down the line. And so just like having those hard conversations in the beginning to figure out, you know, why do you want to do this? Why should we do this? How do we resolve conflict? What happens if we decide not to work together anymore? You know, so that we can have like a founders agreement, like this is why we were doing this. And I remember all the guys that I mentioned, like, you know, we had Patrick, Kwabena, Wedam, you know, like the big people in my team now were showing up for so many other projects and they were still in uni at the time, right? And so the goal was that now next thing was that we have to be at a level where we can raise some money so that we can employ those guys full time when they are out of school, right? Because when they're out of school, I wanted to also make them competitive offers so that they don't have to really think about so much. Because maybe as a founder, you may want to sacrifice, but I've worked with people before where I was also maybe doing some sacrifice and I wasn't very happy about it, right? But like, I didn't care as long as I wasn't in the house, because at the time my parents were taking care of me. And so I guess I felt like it wouldn't be fair to them to let them be going through this with us the way that we were doing things. And so figuring out what kind of metrics, what kind of boxes could we check? How do we have a mission statement? Can we have a theory of change? Can we have some general guiding principles on?
How did you figure all those things out?
So
books, friends?
Well, I mean, I do read, but I've figured out it's easier to just ask people for help because, I mean, a lot of books you read, though, are not written by people who have done business in Africa before.
Yeah.
You know, like I've met people who tell me how they've read so many crazy books and then they came here in totally different environment, totally different climate. And so imagine if you knew a guy who was like a very big deal in Switzerland in banking or something, and you could just ask him for advice, right? Yeah. Or like Chelsea, who ran Elite, that introduced me to STEM. I could always text him about anything in the business. Like I remember initially wanting to go to grad school to do engineering and all, and having those conversations, and now telling him, I think I might be better doing an MBA because I need this business to be successful. But then I'll text him about stuff, and we'll hop on a call. Desmond from Complete Farmer, I'll text him about stuff,
Okay.
And I think especially for Desmond, he really understands a lot of things, like, because he's been through it before. I mean, Complete Farmer's journey, if you ever are able to get him on this podcast, you realize it wasn't an easy journey, right? And I mean, for me, because I was very young at the time when I was working for him, we had this really more like a brother, like more like
this
big
one.
bro.
This is an invitation to this podcast.
Yeah, this one. Definitely. And it's no surprise that he's doing very well, because I mean, I think for him, things that he's done to make the company succeed, nothing in life can faze him, right? And so having people like that I could easily just ask for help. There's also an accelerator called Telesto Accelerator that was in 2023. So I took part of it. I took part in it, me, Jeremiah, and Angela, just to kind of learn what it really meant to try and become a proper business, right?
Okay.
And I guess it really became apparent that if we wanted this business to be successful, I had to not do as much engineering, or I would be 2 to 3 levels removed from all the engineering. And so having people that you could rely on and do all these, and even thinking about your financial projections or budgeting, like if you're there and you have some money, you could just be like, I can put all this money into this project and that's fine. But now you want to make sure, maybe I want the company to last 2 years. So how much can we feasibly put into projects and not run out of, salaries, right? Like thinking about things on that level, I don't think I had that understanding. And so just being honest with myself to say, and I've always never had to feel pressured to sound impressive to people. Like if the company is going through a hard time, we're being evicted. If someone asked me, I'll be like, yeah, we're being evicted. Right? Do you get me? Yeah. Like, because it's only by being honest that people would like help you. And I mean, maybe you'd say that, and of course, maybe 1 or 2 people would laugh at you, right? But like, for me, it doesn't matter, because you would actually find people who truly, genuinely want to help you. And by trying to sound very impressive, they might be, maybe these guys don't need my help. Yeah.
When you transition to become a business, there'll be need for you to raise capital. While you're learning on your job being an accelerator, you joined this fellowship with Echo in Green. How did that go with Echo in Green?
Yeah. Being an Echo in Green fellow, you get some, I guess you get a grant, which is more non-dilutive funding, $80,000. So,
In our conversation earlier, you were talking about how you tend to, after the piloting, like I just had like your proper institution around and to do your scaling and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, so I know the electric bikes.
Yeah.
How did that one start?
Yeah, so with the bikes, I guess around the same time when we were presenting our final year project, I guess I told, the whole goal was that the title of my research paper, and it's in the library. So, I mean, it was more an adaptive modular control system for electric wheelchairs. And part of my final chapter in the paper, I was talking about how you could easily adapt it to run other products like electric bikes or any other powered appliance. And so, part of that, I mean, we had to prove it, right? Like showing some of the...
So you built the body around the controls?
Yeah, so like just having the controls so you could put it in anything and run with it. So I
think your product itself, product is your controller.
That's really the product, right? Like the electrical, the electronic controller. That's really what the product is.
That's nice.
We call it a Goliath unified controller, but that's just a fancy term. Yeah, but so I guess essentially to prove that we made a bike, and first of all, I mean, initially we put it on like a normal bike, like just to test, but then we wanted to kind of make it a bit cooler, so we made our own off-road bike. Like everything was done in-house, made a jig table, put frames together and welded the bike, had it sprayed, it was looking really cool. And then at Academic City's inauguration, you know, like Baumia was there. We had a bunch of people there, and what's it called? We were doing, I guess we were showcasing the project. So at that time, the founder of the school came by, and he was at our stand. So it was like, oh, this is a really interesting bike. How does it work? And we showed him how it works. Like, it's like cool. I just explained things to him. So someone calls me. I turned around, and when I turned back, this guy had hopped on the bike and he was driving through, like he was riding through the guests, right? So I can show you this picture on my phone. Yeah, but that's him, and that's us chasing him, because I was like, yo, imagine if the founder, the chairman of Academic City falls down, like. But then
that's
he
crazy.
took, and he was just going through all the guests, like, you know, they were at a table, cocktail table. It was just riding through all of them, and it was really, really cool.
That's
to
like a
witness.
validation of the product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and so and the reason why I even say that, I think there's this popular joke about how a bunch of university students, university lecturers were in a plane, and they were told that their students built it, and a lot of them ran out. And there was one guy who stayed. It's like, if my students built this, I know it's not even going to fly, right? And that's like the traditional way engineering is conceived. And I mean, for this guy, of course, you've put like 25 million into a school.
Yeah.
You probably would trust a product that comes out of, you know, one of your top students. And so that was really nice. I remember that day, like, I was just like really, really happy. And apparently, you know, when that happened, you know, Kobiche was there, a bunch of bloggers, right? So, I mean, for me, that was just a really normal thing that had happened. And a little later, you know, I'm there.
Get an order for the bikes.
Yeah, like we just start, my IG just keeps blowing up because Kobiche posted a video of us, like, and the whole thing, and wrote a really nice piece on it, you know. So you start getting people being interested in something that you really didn't think of building a business on, you know. And so initially we weren't super like interested in going that route, right? But then we just figured
so bikes, the suspensions, like I did like double or triple.
So we have 3 suspensions, like seats, fronts, and then the main body, because, you know, like the roads where people will be using them, it's just going to be crazy. I mean, it's just maybe just on the engineering side. So
outside your 3 co-founders, your 2 co-founders.
Yeah.
I just have joined the team. You're like full-time employees.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, we're about 10, so it's 6 engineers, and then 4 on just business development. So like when I say becoming a proper company, like having an accountant to make sure you're not just spending all your money on R&D, but you can pay people, you can afford certain utilities and all of that. So yeah, we have people who are doing
And do you work with like other like handymen, craftsmen? Yeah,
actually a lot of our.
And how do you streamline? Because in Ghana, the handymen, the craftsmen, artisans.
Yeah.
How do you streamline, bring it up standard to?
Even when it came to working with aluminum and all of that, like there was a project that I did in school. Would go to Agbogloshi, and a lot of the guys, we were trying to figure out how to improve their financial situations or their economic prospect. And so we would work with some of these guys who were casting aluminum, and all they were doing was that design, right? So they're making like these very high quality aluminum pans that won't break down easily unless they went home to those homes to steal them back or something, right? And so people are not coming back as much. But then here we are in school needing things done in certain grades of aluminum, and you have to go to China, or you have to message a company in the EU and wait like 3 weeks and then pay insane duty and taxes. So then the goal was, can we make, like, let's make a piece here locally, or let's 3D print an object, let's CNC cut something in wood and take it to these guys and have them cast it. And when they cast it, we can bring it back, put it in a CNC machine and have it cleaned up so that it's according to specification, right? And I remember even the first time we went there, we met with a lot of resistance. And I think most people would encounter that first resistance and be like, okay, screw you people, I'm trying to bring you money and you're not you know, interested. But then for them, it's like, it's going to waste their time. So there has to be some good incentive. And so I remember even the first few parts we were doing for some of them would pay them way more than we needed
Market
to be
price,
paying,
yeah.
right? But the reason why we're doing that was for them to listen to us in the first place. And now that they listen to you, they realize that, oh, there's actually a market for this. So sometimes people will get orders and they'll be like, oh, what are you trying to cry? And they'll send us pictures, they'll send us measurements, and we make a very physical piece for them. And we take it so that they can use for the casting. So like there are a few things. If you're casting, sometimes you have to make the object a bit bigger. So when it shrinks and when you machine it, you get it the perfect size. You know, like working with those people, and in that instance, we have a process where now we know we can work with any local technician.
Yeah.
And that way, by me saying we do not necessarily need to be doing every part of manufacturing ourselves.
Okay.
That's some of the things that I mean, you know, like the seats, for example, on the wheelchairs. Now it's like all the seats are going to be locally made because we were working with a bunch of technicians. Like we've shown them. I mean, of course, we'll have all our panels laser cut, all the bends done, but then everything else is up to them because we've done progressively a lot of work with them to figure out locally, like how can we get the local industry to scale up? Because one thing I really want to focus on, I still want to keep our team very small.
Okay.
Until we've reached the point where we really need so many people. We shouldn't have like a very big team, right? Like, and so that's one of the things. Like, we haven't reached the point where we need to bring in extra engineers, but then still figuring out how we can train people to be very reliable and dependable. Okay. So, I mean, there's something, as you can tell, I'm talking a lot about it, but it's because we've done a lot of work. Yeah. We've done a lot of work on that area very specifically, because like if you see the skill level of some of these people, they are really good, right? But then sometimes even reducing certain processes in there or eliminating a process because it might not be necessary, or like you're making a truss and there's another beam there, and then you show them a real-time simulation of the fact that that beam had zero effect or maybe very negligible effect on the total integrity because they've already probably over-defined it, right? Yeah. And so being able to bridge that gap between like informal, these guys, and us, and also, I mean, we make sure the person is very, very young. Yeah. And but yeah, I guess finding people who were kind of struggling in the business, that was maybe in a selfish way, but it's just because sometimes you'd go there and they'll be like, oh, this guy even brought this more expensive work and I've put that aside to do your work. So in a way, it's more like you should be grateful I'm even doing this. But then the fact
So now, would you say you've made like carefully created a community of work outside your to work with?
And I mean, it's stuff that we would want to do more, like if we have some NGOs that are interested in, for example, just doing skills training. We can hand over that to them, because in a way that's really not part of our main job.
The main job focus on the control.
Right, but like we really needed to make sure all those aspects were working, because if we say we're doing the work in Ghana and all our pieces, all the important pieces are not made in Ghana, then like what's made in Ghana about the product? And I think that's the method a lot of people will go through, because doing this is really difficult because of that skill gap and all. But sometimes it's not really as much a skill gap as a communication gap, because like some of these guys just grew up in the workshop. They can run a lathe. If you give them a piece, they can produce a physical piece, but they may not know what a 24x 1/4 teeth. Like, do you get me?
Yeah, it's true.
You need to like explain what that means to them. And sometimes it could mean just doing like a lot more work that you don't want to do. Yeah.
Okay. How does the future look like? Projecting to the future for number one, Goliath, right? Yeah. Goliath Robotics. If you can go into the next 5 years, how do you think that looks like? And then generally the future of innovation in Ghana, you know, and on this continent as a whole.
I think for Goliath, in the future, I mean, hopefully everything we're doing works out really, really well. I mean, the bunch of other products that we want to do, it won't just be in mobility. Okay. I think I've told you before how there was a time when I was in the hospital and I had to wear this Holter device so they could get continuous data from my heart, for example. And you'd realize that, you know, a lot of, I guess if you look at the future of diseases, basically, you'd say that, let's say if I brought somebody from 300 years ago here and they came into contact with me, they would probably die on the spot, because the kind of germs my body is used to now are not germs that probably existed in his time or were not that evolved. And so you just think that those things might have been chronic diseases in his time. But in my time, it's like normal. And so you see, okay, the future of diseases is really becoming chronic diseases. So how do we kind of future-proof against that? A lot of that, of course, will be government initiatives and all. But there are a couple of things that we could do, for example, just improving diagnostics generally, like the Holter, for example, that I mentioned, for every 24 hours that you have it on, in 2023, that's when this happened, right? So it's 750 cedis for 24 hours, right? And that was the equivalent of $65, right? So just imagine somebody is making probably $200 a month or less, right? How many days can he have that on, and how much continuous data can you really record?
Is that a Goliath problem?
Right.
To be slung by David Sling.
Exactly, hopefully, So, I mean, we've already... so at that time, I wasn't working in the company because I needed to be to get well. And so I wasn't even around any electronics and all. So, I mean, when they take it off, I would have 4 hours or something to just do some work. And all my dad would do was print hard paper back research papers that I'll tell him to get for me. Or I need this paper, I need that paper. And I was just reading them. So just being able to reverse engineer some of these things. Not reverse, please. No, but I just understand how some of these things work and being able to build something out of it, but also making it very affordable. And I mean, there may be certain things that we might do that we may never turn into a commercial product. It could be like an open source product or something. But you need certain amount of money to do certain things. But yeah, there's so many things we want to really do.
What about the future of Africa?
Yeah, and I mean, I think in Africa, a lot of those things will really, I think, be done by the amateurs and the young people. You need people who just feel like, I'm confident enough that I want to be able to do this. And just having people support. I think in terms of support, there's always a level of support that people give, but it's also, I guess, just based on people's previous better experiences, not super trusting of how people would go. And so you need a bunch of and I think it's a wave that's going to be coming up now. A lot of people creating. I think for a lot of African countries in the past, especially if they just recently had independence, whoever won them independence is usually so great that a lot of their citizens become used to seeing so many good things happen in their life, which had nothing to do with them. So, for example, even under Nkrumah, so many great things happened for Ghanaians. And he said that standard of our government is probably going to be able to do all these for you. But then, so that was really, really great. I think a lot of people didn't see the need for individualism and trying to also actualize your dreams by your own hand. And I think just based on conversations that happen on university campuses and other places in the world, I guess a lot of young people are are realizing this fact. I think even with, and not just in Africa, a lot of places.
Essentially, you're more or less saying that you think that the future is for young people, because young people who are ready to take initiative, bold to take initiative, and not just wait on the government.
Yeah.
Whether it's politics or in business or in engineering, that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of things happening of conversations in schools, in universities, in places, on radio, on social media, and then we are seeing young people do things that will inspire other young people to want to do things as young people. So the future of African innovation is really in the hands of young people.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Great. This has been like a steamy conversation, heavily technical conversation, and you are clearly an outlier. Like your brother said, you probably top 1% of you belong to the top 1% of people in Ghana, probably globally, right?
I don't.
And,
I don't know.
And Malcolm Gladwell's Outlier, I don't know if you read that book. It talks about how people have made really heavy contributions to society, so have like a string of lucky events happening for them. Because listen to your story, the kind of father you had, the kind of upbringing he gave you, how you even go to Academic City. I mean, the elite program you joined, Academic City, how academicity was at the point it was when you were there. I guess it's more like there's a certain hand outside ordering your steps and getting you at the right place. Would you consider yourself like a lucky person? Would you say like you're a lucky man, lucky boy?
Yeah, I think I am. I would always think of it as, I'm very lucky. I think, it depends on how you see it. You can attribute it to the grace of God. And I think, of course, that might be it. But I think a lot of things in my life have actually been as a result of like things have happened that I just felt like, well, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Like even the way I joined Elite, I didn't like sign up to join the program because I like when I had tried other computer, they'll tell you software development and all, and you'll be doing Mavis Beacon stuff the whole time or PowerPoint, right? So like, and that wasn't really what I wanted, because back then, like my brother would go watch a few conferences. Back then you go to the internet cafe and come back and write a script on the computer that would maybe rename your file or hide it. Things that would seem really, really cool. And I wanted to do things like that. And so I guess that was the standard I was holding people to. And in the evening, one evening I was there, I was like, we call this suya, right? I call it chichinga. Yeah. So I was like, yo, I need to buy some chichinga tonight. Bro, like it was such a crazy feeling that I got up and I was going out. And I met my friend Kobna. He's a professor now, actually. Kobna was like, hey, yo, Barnabas, like you should come to this program. Do you know I built a calculator today? And I was like, no way. So the next day, found a way to sneak me in.
Here you are.
Yeah, and when I went in there, I guess I feel like if I had registered to join the program, I might not have been serious. But because I snuck in, like I wanted to prove why I needed to be there. So I was like, there's a question, my hand is up. There's something, I'm doing it, And I think in the end, I remember there's a picture which was taken of us unawares, like of me unawares, but it was a guy called Ibrahim. He's at 10 table now, also a product of Elite. But Ibrahim was sitting there with me at the table, and I was trying to put this robot together because something happened and my team got disbanded, and I was still insisting on building that robot because I knew my dad would come check it out, and he's like, 3 weeks you've been talking about this robot. If I come and you're presenting a phone charger, you get me? So I had to explain to him because our board got bent, and it was like the time it would take to put everything together. We might as well join another group. But so he was sitting there with me while I was working, and he just asked me, "Hey, did you actually sign up to this program?" And I was like, "Nah." But he didn't. I guess he could have. Maybe asked them to turn me back. But I had also done a lot at that time, like I guess to get noticed. But then he brought me a sign-up form. And so I filled it on the spot. And then now officially, I became like part of Elite. And so like, for example, he could have just asked me to turn away and none of these things would have happened. Like other things like, even when I was in Madonna school, like Mr. Bansa, I remember when our computer broke the first time. It's because I saw a video on how to overclock your PC or something, and I tried to do it and it didn't work, right? And my dad went to this guy and he was complaining, right? And Mr. Bansa just said, it's kids. Just, if you can't afford, just get him a new one. And he was even willing to help my dad find a computer for me, right? Mr. Samoa, he passed recently. He was like, the reason why I love science, one of the reasons why I love science so much, outside my brother and my dad, is that when he used to teach us science in, like, when we go to JHS, and you do things like if you were doing anatomy, you'd actually go get a rabbit and put anesthesia and then cut it open, show you all the parts, like teaching you technical drawing. So, and also, I guess if you're in a private school, there's a certain standard that you get exposed to, like extracurriculars and all. Yeah. But like he was friends with my dad, and so I could go to him with questions outside of. And my dad used to tell him like, "Look, this kid has so many questions that he's annoying. Like, can he come to you?" And then Mr. Samuel had no problem. I'll go to him and ask him questions in class, and we just had an agreement that while I'm teaching in class, if you have a question, ask me after class, because it will usually be something super ahead of the class, and it was kind of annoying, like you're being a jerk because your friends don't really get something. And so just having access to people like that, there are people right now that I know that I really know that under normal circumstances, if I needed to talk to them, it'll probably be like 2 years of just trying to be on their schedule, and I can shoot them a message and they'll call me like in their free time, and we can talk about things generally. And so I would say, and even certain like places that I've gone to where I think, oh, I really need help. I need someone to figure something out for me, and someone would see my last name and be like, oh, yeah, your dad taught me, right? Or like, yeah, I used to work with your mom, or your mom. My parents are also have been quite generous to a bunch of people, and so I remember meeting someone recently, and she was just telling me how my mom, if it wasn't for my mom, she wouldn't have gone to uni, and so any help you need, right?
Yeah.
And so I think my parents also did a lot of work in the background that I'm kind of reaping the benefits of, but ultimately, largely, I think. I'd say God has been good to me. But yeah, I think I think a lot of the time it's been more like there will always be the opportunity, but also some element of self-motivation and hard work, so that you can actually
make the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, you can make the most of the opportunity. And so, yeah.
Well, so what do you do when you're not building? What do you call wheelchairs or cars, or what do we know? Airplanes, jet engine.
So I think
you go to the club.
Oh no, I don't do those things anymore. Like, but
movie, sleep.
No, maybe game. I like gaming a lot. So there's a game like I like Souls type games like Elden Ring and all. Currently I'm playing Sekiro again for maybe the third time. Like, it's just a really nice game, compelling story. I like, I've been taking up some other hobbies like horse riding, which is really, really cool. I think my first ride was very, you're very afraid of a horse, but then after a while, you get really kind of eased into it. Tried golfing.
Yeah, your story is very inspiring, honestly. And it's very unique. And I really hope that you stay here and you stick to the mandate of tackling, because we are riddled and leading with problems in our part of the world. And I'll be glad if you stick to your guns and then be building solutions for us, right? Your business will do well. It's rather obvious. And thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks
for coming here. It's been an inspiring conversation and a very heavy conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and see you again.
All right, you too.
Right. So, friends in Accra and friends in the world beyond, this is the Peswa Podcast. I really hope you had a good time listening to this conversation, because I certainly did. See you again. Idua.